What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'd like to talk about the impending Nintendo Direct that's coming this month. To be honest, I'm kind of jazzed about this Switch Direct. I'm not more excited for it than the April Direct for Switch 2, but I am pretty stoked to see what Nintendo has up their sleeves for the Switch 1, because I think it could get pretty wacky this year in terms of games on the Switch 1. We kind of saw that last year with games like Another Code, Endless Ocean, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, even a game like Mario & Luigi Brothership, which kind of came out of nowhere. It got kind of wacky last year for Nintendo, and I really like that. I think this year could be even weirder, and I think when Nintendo gets weird, that's when they get the coolest. And I'm just looking at my predictions I have written here, and there are some weird ones on here, so get ready for that. Let's first just go over a list of games that I think could make an appearance at this Direct. I've got two games that I have as locks, games that I would be absolutely shocked if we don't see in some form in this February Direct. And those two games are Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Xenoblade Chronicles X HD, or Definitive Edition, whatever it's called. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, pretty simple one. This is the biggest Switch title this year. But in terms of games that could be at this presentation, assuming Nintendo doesn't have something crazy up their sleeves, this is going to be the biggest Switch game this year and probably the biggest Switch game left in this generation. So I think we're definitely going to see more about it. Will we see a date? Who knows? We'll wait for my predictions to talk about that. That's been a big source of debate in the community, but I definitely think we're going to see a big gameplay blowout for Metroid Prime 4. And then Xenoblade Chronicles X, I think we're just going to see a little bit more of that extra content they've promised. It's just another opportunity to give Xenoblade X a view to all these people who are going to watch this Nintendo Direct. Maybe they know it's coming out but don't know a lot about it. Maybe they just don't know it's coming out. So it's a good place to advertise this game a little bit, even if they don't have like a new detail about it. Moving on to the likely tier. Games that I don't think are a guarantee to be at this presentation, but I think would be surprising to not see them. The first one is... I got abbreviations here, I can't read them. The first one is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D. This is a game or a pair of games, we're still not sure, that got announced in the June Direct last year, and we still haven't seen them. Obviously, they're going to be very similar to Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, which we got last year, but I think we're just going to see these shown off, get a release date for them. I think that makes a lot of sense for this presentation. I don't really know when else Square Enix would get info out there about these games, so this kind of feels like the spot for them. Kirby Planet Robobot is a game that the legendary Nate the Hate told us is coming to the Switch this year. I almost want to put this in a lock, because I do believe that Nate is right about this, but obviously we don't know of this game yet technically, so it's in the likely category here, but I think we will see it at this February Direct, and hopefully it has some bonus content as well, like Kirby, whatever the one that came out in 2023, the remaster they did, that had a really cool side mode. I hope they do the same for Planet Robobot. I've got Metroid Prime 2 and 3 on the list as well. I don't think these are as likely as the first two I said, but I also think they're pretty likely. At least Metroid Prime 2. Maybe not 3, but I think I'd be surprised if we don't see Metroid Prime 2 in some regard get an HD remaster, and probably a shadow drop in this Direct. I think we're all kind of expecting that. And then I've got an NSO update. I don't think we're going to get a new system or anything. Obviously, you've got GameCube, DS, Wii that could be added. I can't see that happening, to be honest with you. I think maybe Switch 2, like launch the Switch 2 with a new system for NSO. That could make sense. In terms of Switch 1 NSO content, I think Diddy Kong Racing or Conquer would make a lot of sense. Those are the only two NSO possibilities that I think would warrant a headline in a Nintendo Direct. So I think one of those two are going to be the one we see probably shadow dropped for the Switch in this Direct. All right, now into the next tier, and I'm calling this possible. Games that I don't necessarily expect to be at this Direct, but I also wouldn't be totally shocked if they do make an appearance. First one I've got is the ever-rumored Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD double pack. This is one of those games where I just kind of got to see it to believe it in terms of it being a real thing. We've heard about this for years, it feels like, and not even, it feels like it has been years. I think 2019 we were hearing about this game potentially coming to Switch, but I feel like every time we talk about what could be at a Direct, you gotta bring up the double pack, because it feels like any minute now, any Direct now, we're gonna see it. I don't know, but it feels like something you just gotta bring up out of necessity, so I brought it up. It's possible, that's for sure. I've got Mario Baseball listed here as well. We haven't got a Mario sports game in 3 years, and baseball is the last one on the list. If they're not going to bring back basketball or give us a new sport like football or hockey or something, this is the last Mario sports game on the list for the Nintendo Switch. I think it would make a lot of sense as a Switch 1 Mario title, because I think when you look at a lot of people's predictions, and even my predictions, there's not a lot of Mario for the Switch 1. Obviously, the Switch 2 is going to be a Mario machine, right? We're going to get Mario Kart. We're more than likely going to get 3D Mario. But I think we're just kind of forgetting Switch 1 in terms of Mario support. Feels like there's going to be at least one Mario game on the Switch this year. And I think Mario Baseball makes a lot of sense as that game. It's kind of casual, it's not huge, but also it has a cult following. My only reservation with this and the next one on my list, would they announce a game like this on Mario Day instead of at this Direct? I'm not sure. It's definitely a possibility. I could also see them announcing a game like this at this Direct and then not giving it a date and dating it on Mario Day. That feels like something they would do. The other game I have relating to this is Mario Galaxy 2 HD. This is not a game that's been rumored, but I think has been wish-casted a lot over these last few years after we got Mario 3D All-Stars, and Galaxy 2 was conspicuously... That's not a word. It was conspicuously, whatever word you want to use, it was left out of that collection, and I think a lot of us found that weird, and we thought, hey, perhaps they're going to release this one on its own for the Switch. We haven't seen the fruits of that yet. This is one that definitely feels like it could be a Mario Day announcement. They could be like, hey, happy Mario Day, Shadow Drop, Galaxy 2 HD, go wild. Something like that. I don't know. Continuing in the possible tier, I've got F-Zero GX. There was a rumor that said we were getting a 3D remaster and a GameCube remaster this year. Now, of course, Kirby Planet Robobot would be the 3DS game, but the GameCube game, a little more interesting. Obviously, it could be Prime 2, that could make sense, but it could also be F-Zero GX, which is a game we've heard about, I feel like, for a while. Speaking of rumors, we've heard about this one for a long while, so it could make sense as a game at this Direct. But this is another one of those I'll believe it when I see it kind of games. I feel like we've been wish-casting and predicting F-Zero GX HD for about 5 years. We'll see. The last thing I have here isn't a game, but DLC. Nintendo doesn't do as much DLC, I feel like, as they used to, but there are some 2023 games that could really use some DLC, or maybe I'm just saying that because I want them to get DLC. We know Tears of the Kingdom isn't getting DLC as much as I would adore something like that, but maybe a Pikmin, maybe a Mario Wonder. Those are both games that I think could benefit greatly from DLC. And I'm not just saying that because I want them to have more content. I think, especially Pikmin 4, could make a lot of sense to get DLC. The last thing to cover in terms of games we could see is a rumor from PH Brazil, who I'm going to paraphrase here, was talking about how the Switch is going to have one last big release. It's going to be in a niche but beloved franchise, and it's going to be something bigger than just a remaster. So at the very least, you would assume a remake or even a new game in one of these franchises. So I think it would be interesting to run through real quick, what could this game be? What franchise could this game belong to? I've written down some of the different franchises that people have theorized, and I'll give my thoughts on them. First of all, I've seen people bring up niche franchises like Excite Bike. I think that's too niche for a rumor like this. I don't think that's what Brazil would be referencing. I guess it's possible, but I can't see it. Also, why would Nintendo ever make a new Excite Bike game? That makes no sense to me, especially with Mario Kart 9, 10, whatever it's called, coming this year. The first one I think could make sense is an F-Zero game of some sort. Now, the reason I don't quite believe this one is because I think F-Zero makes a lot of sense as a Switch 2 game, in sort of that ARMS slot that the Switch 1 had in 2017, kind of like a smaller, unique experience for the Switch 2. I think that could make a lot of sense to help Star Fox kind of revive itself. And also, I think Star Fox could be a kind of game that could really show off the power of the Switch 2. Just imagine flying around in the sky with all that processing power. Imagine like the ray tracing on Fox's spaceship. Like, it could look awesome on the Switch 2. So I think that would make more sense as a Switch 2 game. The next one I have here is F-Zero, which we talked about earlier with F-Zero GX. I don't think F-Zero GX HD is big enough to qualify for what Brazil is talking about. That feels like a smaller release, whereas this is kind of the last hurrah, it seems, for the Switch proper. So F-Zero to me doesn't really fit the description here in terms of a big game. People have brought up Rhythm Heaven. That doesn't really feel big to me. I would love a new Rhythm Heaven game, but I don't think it really fits this either, and also I just don't expect a new Rhythm Heaven game. That would be really surprising to me. I know people have been wishing for it for years. It's another one of those I'll believe it when I see it kind of games. Anyway, another game that people have been theorizing this rumored crazy big Switch game could be is Fire Emblem 4 Remake. This has been a game that's been rumored for just about forever. I think it's been years, and I think Nate the Hate was the one who originally started this rumor and said that this game was in development. And since we've heard nothing, since that rumor came out, we've gotten a whole brand new Fire Emblem game. So that's the only reason I'm a little hesitant on if this is true, and if this game even exists, much less is it that final Switch 1 game, because we haven't heard about this game for years, and for all we know, it got canceled. I don't know. It's another I'll believe it when I see it kind of game, but I will admit it makes a lot of sense to fill this slot as the last big Switch game in a niche franchise. Another thing people think this could be related to is Tomodachi Life, and this is another one that I don't think quite matches the description, because I would imagine this would just be a Tomodachi Life remaster. If Nintendo was ever to re-release Tomodachi Life, I don't think it would be a new game. I don't think they would rebuild it from the ground up. I think they would just kind of give it the Miitomo treatment and give it a nice polish, add that really cool Mii Maker, but not really add too much more to it. So I don't think it quite fits here, but if for some reason they were to release a Tomodachi Life 2, I guess I do think it would fit this description. But again, I'm not sold that that would be the game either. Now, the final two I have, I think make the most sense. The first one is something related to Earthbound, whether it be Earthbound 1 and 2 remade, or perhaps Mother 3 finally getting localized and remade and brought over to the States. Obviously, this would be a huge moment if it is something Mother 3 related. We've been clamoring for this game to come out in the US for years. It's not only a meme in the Nintendo community, but it is like a pop culture thing. This joke about Mother 3 never coming out, never getting localized. It would be a huge deal, and it would certainly be an appropriate last hurrah for the Switch. So I think that could make sense. I mean, ideally, they would remake all of the Mother games, especially the first one, which is just really rough to go back to. I tried recently, I can't get into it. So I would love for them to remake that one. But 2 and 3 deserve it as well, especially, of course, Mother 3, because we don't have that official English translation. So I think Mother makes sense. I don't know, it might just be too insignificant to fit PH Brazil's description, like a niche but beloved franchise. I guess that is Earthbound. There's just been no movement or discussion about Earthbound really since Mother 3, I guess, besides Lucas coming back when they added him back in Smash 4. Regardless, I think this could be an option for this game. The final thing I have written down is something related to Pikmin. Maybe it's Hey Pikmin 2, maybe it's some sort of other spin-off, but I could see it being some sort of minor Pikmin game. Not Pikmin 5, but some sort of cool spin-off Pikmin that could be something fun to tide us over before the next mainline game in the series. I do wonder if Pikmin is a little too big to be considered niche but beloved. I guess it technically is, but Pikmin 4 sold a lot, and the Pikmin are kind of one of Nintendo's most iconic characters. I mean, they use them all the time in advertising and promotional material, even for other games and other series, right? The Pikmin are all over Super Nintendo World, for example, so maybe it's a little too big, even if it was just a hey Pikmin. Maybe it's a little too big to be this kind of descriptor, and thus that would suggest this isn't a Pikmin game that PH Brazil is hinting at, but I think that makes sense as well. So I think the two most likely outcomes are something related to Mother and something related to Pikmin, but again, I could see it being Tomodachi Life, Fire Emblem, or even Star Fox or F-Zero, even if I think those last two are a little more unlikely. All right, but let's get into my predictions. I'm going to give you an announcement by announcement list of what I think we're going to see in this Nintendo Direct. I think we're going to open on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. They'll give us a huge gameplay trailer, maybe reveal if there's a big twist in this game, what it's going to be. I don't really need a big twist. It's friggin' Metroid Prime. It's going to be amazing. But, they'll give us some ideas of what the features are going to be in this game. We'll get to gawk at how beautiful it looks and how smoothly it runs. And I do think they're going to give us a release date, because I don't really buy this idea that this game is going to be launched alongside the Switch 2, or that this game is going to be used heavily in a promotional way as a cross-gen kind of title for the Switch 2. I don't really buy that. I know that's kind of the dominant theory, and people have almost just accepted it as fact at this point, but I kind of feel like this is just going to be a Switch 1 game, maybe with a patch on Switch 2. Not with its own Switch 2 SKU, not with a day-and-date release with the console when it comes out, whether it be in May or June or whatever. Just a game on Switch, again, maybe with a 4K patch on the new console. I mean, I really don't think this is going to be a launch title with the Switch 2, right? Maybe Nintendo would hold back the date just so people wouldn't speculate that, oh, we announced it's going to come out in May, that means the Switch 2 is going to come out in May. Maybe they just don't want that kind of discussion clouding the next 2 months before April 2nd. But I definitely don't think this game is going to be a launch title for the Switch 2, because Mario Kart 9 is a huge title, and it is almost certainly going to launch with the console. I'd be pretty surprised if they weren't going to launch the console with Mario Kart 9 if they showed us the game in the reveal trailer. It's the only game we saw. I think that's kind of a tip that it's going to launch with the system. And I know Metroid Prime is a very different game from Mario Kart 9, but that game is going to overshadow Prime 4. It just will. And I don't think that's fair to Metroid Prime. I don't think it's fair to Nintendo and to Retro Studios for the 10 years they've been working on this game. So I think the Switch is going to drop in around late May. And again, I have this as a July release date. So I think they'll give it a month or two after Mario Kart to have some breathing room, and also give it enough time after the release of the console to where a next-gen patch for Metroid Prime 4 would feel like a big thing. I still think it would be a significant addition for the Switch 2 version, that maybe it's in 4K 60, it's got better textures, it's got ray tracing, whatever it may be. I just don't think it's going to be its own SKU. I don't think it's going to launch with the system. But I think June or July, even May, makes sense for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I've got it here in July, a little bit on the pessimistic side in terms of when I think this game's going to come out. And then after that, I think they'll say, but that's not all, and they'll reveal that Metroid Prime 2 Remastered is going to be shadow dropped, and that we'll be able to play it right after the presentation concludes. I think it just makes too much sense. It'll be 2 years almost to the day at that point of Metroid Prime Remastered coming out on the Switch. It just makes a lot of sense to keep that hype train going for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And it gives them a February game, which they don't have right now, in between Donkey Kong and Xenoblade X. Next, I think they're going to reveal Pikmin 4 DLC. I mentioned DLC earlier in terms of something we could get. I just think Pikmin 4 makes so much sense for DLC. Obviously, 3 got DLC and then got more DLC when the deluxe version came to the Switch. It just makes sense. It's so easy to, add another world, add some more caves, even add a cave editor or something that you can share online with your friends. I just want to hop back into that game, play some more Pikmin. I think it makes sense. Again, if this was a dream prediction, I would say, give me that Mario Wonder DLC, but I don't think that's happening. So I think Pikmin 4 DLC will make sense, because I don't think Nintendo's going to have, absolutely insane new releases for the Switch this year. which would mean a DLC could pad out the release schedule a little bit for the old console. I think next we're going to get Diddy Kong Racing Shadow dropped on NSO. I don't really have any stake in this prediction. I probably wouldn't even play it on NSO. I've played it, it's fine, whatever. But I think it's going to happen. It'll be a cool addition. It's weird that it's not there yet, but I can't say I would be like falling out of my chair for this one. Next, we're going to get a please take a look at this, or I guess it's a snap now. And it's going to be Mario Baseball getting revealed. Yes, I think Bandai is going to come back and give us a new Mario Baseball over 15 years since the last Mario Baseball came out on the Wii. It's pretty wild to think about. And I think this, pretty obvious, it's going to be a June release date. If we're getting a Mario sports game this year, it's going to come out in June. That has always been the case in the Switch's lifespan. And I think if I'm right about the Switch 2 coming out in May, Mario Baseball in June makes a lot of sense because it's a nice light release for the Switch 1 after the big Switch 2 launch. And also, it gives them a Mario game on the Switch 1 this year. And I think they want to have at least one Mario release on every console every year. So that would make sense as the Mario game for a lighter Switch 1 2025. I then think we're going to go back to the headlines, and we're going to get the game that we all kind of know is coming, Kirby Planet Robobot Deluxe HD, whatever they call it. I think we're going to get that announced. And I think that's going to have an April release date. That definitely feels like an April game. I feel like Kirby always ends up early spring for Nintendo. Just makes a lot of sense. Excited to revisit that one. I think we're going to get it in this Direct. Then I think they're going to show us a closer look at that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 remake, just like they did with Dragon Quest 3 in the last Direct in 2024. Maybe we'll even get the lead producer like we did in that Direct in June again, to explain, the intricacies of those two games and also get a release date there. I think it'll come out in August. That feels like a good time for that game. But again, it doesn't totally matter. It's not a Nintendo published game. And also I've barely played Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. It's too much to play. Delay it or something. But I will be excited to check that one out in 2030 whenever I'm ready to play it. I then think we're going to get that One More Thing, and yes, I think it's finally time for a Mother 3, not only localization, but an entire remake, whether it be in the Grezzo style or in the Super Mario RPG style. I think we're going to get a brand spanking new remake of Mother 3, and finally, this friggin' game is going to come to America after decades of memes and wish casting and begging Nintendo to put it on their system. I think it's finally going to come. People are going to go crazy. I know it's not the biggest game ever, but it is a game etched in video game lore. I think you can totally close a Direct on an announcement like this. And I think they'll give us a 2025 date. They won't give us a month, but I think it'll come out in September of 2025. So just to recap, I think we're going to get 4 new announcements: Metroid Prime 2, Mario Baseball, Kirby Planet Robobot, and Mother 3 remade. I think we're going to get 1 DLC, that being Pikmin 4. I think we're going to get a closer look at Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and I think we'll see a close look at that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake as well, which will make for a pretty good Direct. It won't be one of the best Directs ever, no doubt, but it'll be a solid one considering the Switch is in its 8th year, and we know Nintendo's bringing the big guns on April 2nd for the Switch 2. So this is just the leftovers, and I think we're still pretty well fed. So I'm really excited for this Direct. Let me know in the comments, what are your predictions for this event? Do you think it's going to be incredible? Are you not really looking forward to it? You're kind of tired of the Switch 1. You want to get to the Switch 2. I understand if that's your perspective. Either way, tell me what you're hoping to see in this presentation this month. Also, make sure to like the video, subscribe, hit that big fat button, and share this video with whoever you think might like to see it. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.